Logan, guess what?
What?
We're finally doing it.
Yeah, and we planned to leave at 7, and it is exactly 7 o'clock.
We don't usually leave on time, so it's quite the feat for us to actually leave right on the dot.
I'm Taryn, this is Logan, and this is Max. Join us as we live and sail in the Pacific Northwest on our 40-foot steel sailboat. After a week spent in the amazing Thurston Bay area, waiting out gales and heavy wind warnings, we decided to take an inside passage we hadn't initially planned on so we could get moving and see somewhere new. We left Thurston Bay with a couple of new boat friends and headed towards the Cordero Islands just south of Greenpoint Rapids, which we planned to head through on our next move towards the Broughton Archipelago. Although we had hoped to have enough wind to sail, the water soon turned to glass calm as we motored towards our destination.
So I'm not sure that the camera actually captures how amazing it is out here, but it is absolutely incredible. The water just now has a ripple on it, but it was dead calm. And so the reflection of every single mountainous island around us was on the water, and it was just like being hugged by a forest while you're on the ocean. And then you look forward and you just see a bunch of mountains with snow on them. It's just so incredible out here. It's just insane. Just like a wall of green, and then all these hues of blue in front of us. Like, I might actually cry. I'm like so happy right now to be out here and to be experiencing this. Like, it's a dream come true. It really, really is. With all the destruction that's happening with tearing down forests and all the crap that's happening with the ocean changing, I didn't even know if places like this were gonna exist long enough for me to actually see them. But it's been a dream of mine since I was a small child, just to be in a space like this. It's a big deal. And I never thought I'd be on a sailboat doing it, or especially like in my own home experiencing things like this. So that just makes it even more incredible.
But despite the immense beauty of this place, we were never far from fish farms and logging and the awareness of the damage that industrial activities like these have on the marine environment.
So Logan, what did we just see?
I honestly don't know whether they're porpoise or white-sided dolphins. I cannot remember how to identify them.
I think the porpoises have smaller dorsal fins than the white-sided. They had like next to no dorsal fins.
Yeah, and they had a big white like marking on their dorsal fin.
Oh, did they?
Or on their back. We'll look in the book here in a minute and see, but we saw lots of them. And our friends on Dark Wind here, they had a bunch of them. Well, not a bunch, but they had a couple that jumping in their bow wake. It was pretty cool to see.
We're not jealous at all.
Yeah, too bad we didn't get that on camera.
We arrived at the Cordero Islands beside Greenpoint Rapids right at slack current, as we had planned for ease of anchoring. We initially anchored pretty close to the south end of the island, but decided it was too close to the submerged rocks at the end, which were poorly charted, and re-anchored further in instead, which turned out to be a smart choice, as you will see soon. And then we took Max for a walk on the island. As we were exploring the island, the current noticeably gained speed, and...
So it's 10 to 12 now, which is like 2 hours after slack current, and the current is already running, what, 5.5 knots, 6 knots? So we took Max to shore on the little island beside us, and just as we were about to jump back in the dinghy, we look over at the boat. It's running 6 right now.
Yeah.
We look back over at the boat, and as we get our eyes on it, it does a 180 and points the complete opposite direction within like 3 or 4 seconds. Like, it just whipped around. So we're like, oh crap, get back to the boat, just in case we were dragging. Doesn't seem like we are. We're doing pretty good, but so we're doing okay. But it was just weird. It was like there was no current in here, and then all of a sudden there was like the full current running through here.
In the opposite direction.
Yeah, in the opposite direction from what the current's running out in the pass there. So
back eddy.
very interesting. There's reviews on Navionics that said that there wasn't much current in here, but we are clearly experiencing the opposite.
I missed filming the water at its most turbulent point because we were making sure our anchor wasn't dragging. But you can see it a little bit here.
So yesterday was super interesting. We finally left Hanfield Bay. We made it to the Cordero Islands, which is where we are now. We anchored behind the East Island because there's kind of like 2 bay areas. And we were sitting here and it was all good. There was like hardly any current, which was what the reports had said on Navionics. And so we took Max to shore because it was nice and calm. But we could see, we went like over to the first entrance over here, and we could see a really strong current running on the opposite side of these rocks that are right there. But it wasn't running inside the bay. So we took Max to the island to go to the bathroom. He went to the bathroom and walked around a little bit, came to get back in the dinghy, and as we got back, or we're going back to get into the dinghy, as we're like climbing down to the dinghy, we see our boat do a full 180 at like 5 knots, just like out of nowhere. So it's like this, and it just goes whoosh, like so fast. And we're like, oh my god, our boat's getting away. So we freaked out, ran to the dinghy, got in the dinghy, ran to the boat, and there was this crazy current coming through. There was like whirlpools and back eddies all in here. And we're like, what the heck? Like, there's not supposed to be any current here. What is going on? And then we're looking at the shore, and it looked like the tide went up like half a foot in the time that we went from the island to here. Like the beach that we'd been standing on and had put our anchor for the dinghy in was gone. It was underwater. So we're here, and then the friends that we buddy boated with, Dark Wind, were behind us, and we're all like, what the hell is going on? And they were closer to the rocks to where we discovered the water had like come in, and so they had like crazier back eddies and whirlpools behind them. So they were not comfortable with being that close to that kind of current, so they moved over to the other side. But we decided to stay here because it calmed down within about half an hour. So what we think happened, because it was the full moon, I guess 2 nights ago, these are like the lowest tides that have happened in a very long time. So where we are right now, we're about 0.26 feet above chart datum today for the tide, and yesterday was about the same. But there's some places on the island this past 2 days where the tide has actually been below chart datum. So for those of you who aren't boat people or don't really understand how the charting works, chart datum is like the lowest historically that the tide has ever been. So the tide in some places today and yesterday is literally the lowest it has ever been in recorded history. So because of that, the tide today is pretty big. It's like a 15-foot tide, and the current through the rapids, which is just over here, we're running at like 8 knots. So what we figure happened is there's these rocks at the entrance here, and because the tide was so low, the water, like once the tide got high enough again, there was such a buildup on the other side of the rocks of current that when it was finally able to come over the rocks, it just rushed in and overtook this kind of bay that we're in. And it just happened so fast that it created whirlpools and these back eddies in here. But once that had calmed down, the current slowed down again and just like ran straight out the way that it was supposed to. Yeah, it was really interesting though. It was just crazy to be a part of. And so we stayed here because that was like the absolute lowest tide. Our anchor held really well, like really, really well. And we didn't think there was going to be another like crazy switch like that because that was like the biggest tide. But at I don't know what time this morning there was another one for sure. We woke up with the snubber like loudly creaking and you could feel the boat just swing. So we did another 180. Didn't get up to see what the water looked like. It was dark out. So I'm assuming the current did the same thing. But we didn't move. We are in front of the same rock that we anchored in front of yesterday. So also, this place is kind of cool for wildlife. So we've seen a bear, a mink, a couple of mink, a river otter, a couple of seals, lots of eagles, other birds. On the way here, we saw porpoises 3 times. So it's a pretty cool little spot. So people really only anchor here before going through Green Rapids, it's called, which is just up from us. So we're gonna go to this little resort called Blind Channel Resort so we can like reprovision and shower and do laundry, whatever they have available. I'm not even sure. Internet. So we're gonna just go there for the day on the slack current, and then we're gonna come back on the next slack current at about 5:30 and re-anchor here. And then tomorrow we're planning on actually heading farther up. Tomorrow we have to leave at 5 a.m. to catch the current getting out of here. But we're actually supposed to get southeast winds tomorrow, which means that we can downwind sail hopefully for a while.
Blind Channel Resort is pretty much directly across from the Cordero Islands and Greenpoint Rapids. It hosts a marina, numerous guest cabins, a small store, and a restaurant which is open throughout the summer. The marina has crystal clear water, fuel, and fingers for boats up to 80 feet. They also offer adventure packages and have beautiful hiking trails that lead right from the resort. The resort also has laundry, showers, and garbage drop-off for a fee for mariners. And they're dog-friendly. There's even a sign that says trails. We hiked through one of their forest trails to some magnificent trees.
So this huge cedar tree is dead, but there's still new growth coming off the top because there's a little strip of bark right here, about, what is that, 5 or 6 feet wide, and that strip of bark runs all the way up to that arm, and that's what's feeding it, giving it its nutrients and water and stuff. But this bark is now turned into that tree's roots, growing on top of this tree. Like, how high up do you think that is?
Really high.
60 feet? 70 feet?
Probably at least, I don't know.
It's hard to judge.
Is it as tall as our mast?
It's taller.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
But then there's also, like, countless hemlock trees growing up there. Like, they're everywhere. And some of them are fairly big. You can see right up through it.
What do you think, Max? You want to come in too? You come in? Come in. Come in the tree. Come in.
Come here, bud.
Come here. Max, are you in a tree? Oh, over it.
Well, that's a wrap on Blind Channel Resort in Blind Bay. It was super nice there. Really nice place to just hang out for a bit and to reprovision a little bit. The staff were like super nice. Really liked Max, which is great. We got there and we paid for showers, but then found out that their water wasn't working at all because they had an electrical issue, which is a pretty rare thing there. Of course, it's just our luck to be there on the day that happened. They had water issues, so we got showers right at the very end of our visit. We had to leave to head back here. We had to leave by like 6 at the latest, so we had showers at 5 o'clock. I'd say we highly recommend stopping there though if you can, or if you need to reprovision or whatever. They didn't have a ton of veggies, but they had lots of other good stuff that we needed, like flour and sugar and the basics. Mayonnaise.
The hiking trails were really nice.
Yeah, the hiking trails were cool there. Yeah, really nice, good place to stop. So they didn't charge us for the day. They charged us for showers, for laundry, for garbage, and if we wanted power. And we spent probably at least $200 in the store reprovisioning, so they've got it figured out. But yeah, it was a pretty good gig because we were there from 11 o'clock until 6. It was like 7 hours at the dock for free, so not bad at all.
When we arrived back at the Cordero Islands, we decided to anchor on the other side with the other boats, mostly because we wanted to try somewhere different and be closer to our friends. Although there was a lot of current here as well, it was at least in a constant direction. Join us next week when we make one of our most beautiful trips yet, but also realize we've made one of our dumbest mistakes yet.
Well, in a not so fun turn of events, we have realized that our fuel gauge has not been working for who knows how long, and we are very low on fuel right now.
And as always, thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and joining us on this journey. We are so grateful to be able to share it with you.